The Seahawks flew Mike Macdonald into town, and they didn't let him leave. Welcome back to another episode of the Seattle Sports Show, where we love Seattle pro sports. I'm your host, Mikey. And yes, the Seattle Seahawks have hired their new head coach. I'm sure you've all heard that by now. I'm recording this at the end of the day. It's been all over the sports news, media, and in the news since this morning when Mike Macdonald came into town. Again, they met with Mike Macdonald on Tuesday. They flew over to Baltimore to meet with him. They were there all day long. Flew back, brought Mike Macdonald in this morning, and they were saying it was a second interview, but I think it was more of him just meeting everybody in the building and meeting, all the faculty and the staff. It was quite clear they were not going to let Mike Macdonald leave the building, that he was going to be the new head coach. And that is exactly what happened. Mike Macdonald, Ravens defensive coordinator, hired as the Seahawks' new head coach on a 6-year deal. We don't know the money. Who cares what the money is? It doesn't affect the way the team gets built. Typically, head coaching and coaching staff salary is harder to find than the players' contracts. Because the players' contracts, they're out there, right? So it's easily picked up by media, and you can easily figure that out. Whereas head coaching, it usually takes a lot of digging into, and a lot of times we still don't know. So whatever the Seahawks decided to give him, or whatever they decided to come on an agreement on, they came on an agreement that whatever it is, it's a 6-year deal, and I absolutely love that. I believe I've talked about it on here before. But I have a friend at work who is a Detroit Lions fan, and when I saw Dan Campbell get hired, man, again, I just really loved his press conferences. I was like, wow, that guy makes me want to go play. I want to go play for that guy, right? And then when it came out that at that time when Dan Campbell was hired, he got a 6-year deal. I was like, wow, they're really serious about giving this guy a chance. It's not like a 2-3 year deal, and then if we don't get what we want right away, you're out of here type of deal. It was a type of deal that says, no, we're confident in what you're laying out to us, so we want to give you time to build that. Well, that tells me that's what the Seahawks are saying to Mike Macdonald as well. Because I also mentioned it in the last podcast where we talked about the Seahawks and interviewing with Mike Macdonald. There was it was put out there again by somebody over in Ravens media, right? That Mike Macdonald might be an introvert, and I mean, if that's just his personality on a personal level, I think that is a-okay. Fine, go. That's fine. That's you're an introvert. But if you go listen to any of the players over there for the Ravens talk about him, they will say how much they are inspired by him, how much football he knows, how much he is in the room with them, talking to them, hanging out with them, and all that. So uh, if he's not going out all the time, and he prefers to be in, and he's not, maybe he's not going to be giving the same sort of press conferences or interview uh, style that Pete Carroll did, where he was very, extroverted and outgoing, and would be willing to explain a lot of what was going out there. If that's not what he is about, that's fine, as long as he's in the room with those young men, and he can lead them and inspire them. And it sounds like he's been able to do that with the defensive side of the ball over there in the Ravens. If that's what he can do, that's all we need. It doesn't matter that he's an introvert, in his personal time. Now, I was getting more excited about this as we were hearing. Again, the last episode we talked about that introvert thing, right? And then the very next day, which was Tuesday, the day that the Seahawks were flying over there to get their first interview with Mike Macdonald. It was coming out that, oh, hey, he's had an interview process with a few teams here, and everybody is saying how much they love him and how much he's killing it in the interview process. So then I was like, oh, okay, well, that's a sign. And then obviously, when the Seahawks, John Schneider finally got a chance to meet with him in person, it you know he was blown away. And again, remember, I said that would be something I'd be excited about. When we started out this search, names on the board that I loved: Jim Harbaugh, Dan Quinn, Mike Vrabel, right? Because we all know that those guys have proven track records that they can get the job done in that position. We know that they can lead. But if one of the other guys got hired, that would mean that they showed something that would give indication to John Schneider that this person is going to move the needle, change the temperature in the room, and be a leader. Remember, that's how they felt with Russell Wilson. I think John Schneider has a good feel for that type of thing. So if John Schneider gets in there and he's blown away in an interview with the guy, then I have to believe that he must have something that is going to make him a good leader. And that's pretty amazing for a 36-year-old. This man is 6 months younger than me, and head coach in the NFL already. Literally half the age of Pete Carroll. So we went from literally the oldest coach in the NFL to now literally the youngest coach in the NFL. That's pretty amazing. And then, if you don't know Mike Macdonald, I mean, let's get to know him a little bit. Just I've been doing a lot of reading up on him today. So what you got to know is he didn't play football at the college level. In fact, at the high school level, even he played, was injured his senior year, didn't play the rest of the year, and then so he got right into coaching from that point. He said, okay, I'm not going anywhere playing. I'm going to get into coaching, and I'm going to be a coach. Started out as an intern coach in college, and just kept working his way up there. Got to Georgia, then works his way to be on the staff of John Harbaugh, where he was started out as a defensive back coach, and did that for a year. Then he moved over to linebacker coach, did that for 2 years. and he's just blowing John Harbaugh away with how much of a genius he is uh, with the X's and the O's and understanding football. Jim Harbaugh calls John Harbaugh up, right? And says, "Hey, I need somebody over here at Michigan to help me with my defense. I got to get this defense better if I'm going to improve this team." John Harbaugh says, "Hey, I have this genius over here, Mike Macdonald. Let me send him to you." Uh, Mike Macdonald goes to Michigan for 1 year and gets that defense into the top. Because he goes there, he doesn't just go there as one of the position coaches. When John Harbaugh sends Jim Harbaugh, Mike Macdonald, he's there as the defensive coordinator now for 1 year and gets them into the top 10 defense across all of college. After that 1 year, he returned back to the Ravens now as defensive coordinator. So again, just going back and forth between Harbaugh's and moving his way up the ranks from NFL level defensive back, then linebacker coach, then going to college, becoming defensive coordinator, and then working his way back up to NFL as defensive coordinator, where he's been the coordinator for the Harbaughs, or for John Harbaugh, for the last 2 years with the Ravens. And I didn't really think about it before, but now that I've been trying to find out more information about Mike Macdonald today and really diving deep into it now that he is our head coach. Who did I say was my 1A when we were starting the search? It was Jim Harbaugh. And that all makes me a little bit more excited that we didn't get Jim Harbaugh, but we got a guy that has been working under John Harbaugh and Jim Harbaugh. Both of them think this guy is a genius, and he's been learning from them on how to be a leader. So, to me, you just look at his resume, you look where he's been and who he's been learning from. I feel like he's been primed in the perfect situation to become the next head coach that we want here in Seattle. Again, because he's young, he's been recently in the college game and gone back and forth within just a couple of years. He gets the young generation now, so he's going to be able to connect. He's not going to have any problem connecting with the players that are coming up now, or obviously should have no problem connecting with the players who are just going to be 5-6 years younger than him. That he'll be potentially coaching. Now, as we said, he was defensive coordinator for the last couple of years with the Ravens. 2023 in particular, we'll talk about that because that's the year that we're hiring him off of, where the Ravens, under his coaching as a defensive coordinator, were first in points allowed with only 16.5 points per game. They ranked first in sacks with 60 sacks. They were first in takeaways with 31. And they were first in TDs allowed with 26. Now, don't those all sound like great numbers? They should. They were first place in every category, but that sounds quite close to the best years that the Seahawks were getting during their historical run for the 4 years that they were first place in a row, and 2 out of 4 of those years getting to the Super Bowl. Now, obviously, he's not walking into the Seahawks with the same amount of talent that he has over with the Ravens, but also, it seems like he can get the best out of talent Um, whether they're aging, whether they haven't put up uh, a certain production before. He's shown that in the last 2 years as defensive coordinator for the Ravens. I mean, remember, go back to preseason. When I was seeing the Seahawks, I did not think they had enough depth across the defensive line still. Who was somebody I said they should go after? Jadeveon Clowney, somebody who had been here before, somebody who I thought was very good still and could set the edge still in the running game. And he proved that this year with the Ravens under Mike Macdonald. Now, I did not think Jadeveon Clowney would have a career year this year. He's been in the NFL for a while and always just been kind of average to slightly above average. And then under Mike Macdonald, he really steps his game up and becomes elite for a year, and we could really use that for a lot of the players that we have on our team. That's something that I'm excited about for Mike Macdonald. Is he going to be able to unlock a Boye Mafe and get him like even more consistent? When Uchenna Nwosu comes back from his injury, I mean, he was looking dominant. How much more can Mike Macdonald get out of him? And then, we paid a lot of money for Draymond Jones. He's still going to be here. We need to get the most out of him. Leonard Williams, we spent that second round pick on him. I expect them to sign him. I'm going to expect that Mike Macdonald is going to want to keep a guy like that around. And if that's the case, how well will Mike Macdonald be able to use him versus the way he was being used this last year? And then we will use that to transition to his scheme defensively, obviously, because he's a defensive coach. So we're just talking about what he's done. I expect, we recently talked about how there's only, a handful of coaches. It's about like a third of the league, depending on if you're on offense or defense, right? Like like a third of the offensive coaches and a third of the defensive coaches call their own plays. Typically, it's the guys who are younger. Mike Macdonald, he's the youngest coach in the NFL now, so I'm going to expect he's going to be one of the coaches that calls his own plays as a head coach instead of just delegating that to the defensive coordinator. They'll still have a defensive coordinator hired, but he'll be the one calling the plays, I'm suspecting. Now, his scheme. It's going to sound very familiar. 3-4 defense. Were the Seahawks running the last 2 years with Clint Hurt? A 3-4 defense. They had one of the lowest blitz rates in the NFL the last couple of years under Mike Macdonald, with only, I believe, 7 teams being having a lower blitz rate than them. The Seahawks being one of those teams, just barely below the Ravens. So again, got pretty similar there, right? The big difference here is the Ravens had one of the highest pass rush rates, win rates, with 46%. That was not the case for the Seahawks. So you might be looking at this and going a little bit worried, like, oh, you're telling me they run a very similar style. They're running a 3-4 defense, a lot of time with cover 3 and cover 6 behind it. Isn't that what we've been seeing the last year and last 2 years under Clint Hurt? Well, yes, but just watching tape of what Mike Macdonald does with his defense, is he runs. I think he does a lot better job of running simulated pressure. And what does that mean? That means you're showing blitz, but you're only rushing four. Okay, so you're running 3-4 defense. You got your outside linebackers. You watch the Ravens. They'll have 5, 6. They might have 7 people lined up right there or crowded right up near the line of scrimmage. So this makes it very confusing for the quarterback. They don't know which of these DBs, which of these linebackers, sometimes which of the linemen are in coverage. Again, that's going to sound very familiar. A thing that a lot of people hated the last couple of years with Clint Hurt, right? Defensive linemen dropping back in coverage. Well, you're going to see that. You're going to see that in the Mike Macdonald defense as well. But I think he does a lot better job of disguising it with the plays he calls, and the way he, throws those wrinkles in there to hide which players are actually rushing and which players are dropping back in coverage. Because you'll see when they line up like 5 people or 6 people on the line of scrimmage. They end up only rushing 4, but they might have like some crossing patterns in coverage. You might have some, again, you might have a defensive lineman dropping back in coverage, so you don't know which 4 are coming. And if those offensive linemen aren't sure which 4 guys are rushing, then that can cause some hesitation by them to which step they're going to take first. And it's just one step. It's all you need to get an advantage on somebody. So if our defensive lineman can get that one step advantage against offensive linemen, just based off of the offensive lineman being confused on who's actually rushing and who's dropping back, then you're starting off in a good place. And again, hopefully that's going to help you, increase that pass rush rate, win rate, as the Ravens have had, right? And that's going to hopefully help you get some more sacks, get more pressures in general, and then imagine how confusing that makes it for opposing quarterbacks. They're not sure who's rushing. They're not sure who's dropping back. Very confusing for them. I mean, look at the teams that they held to way less points than they would normally get. They dominated us when we played against them. When they played the 49ers, they dominated them. When they, I believe when they played the Lions, they held them to a lot lower than what they normally get. It's just the way they disguise everything. The 4 men who are rushing, which players are going to be, in zone versus man, which players are, what zone they're going to. Like I said, a lot of times they'll take like these crossing patterns where you have, the middle linebacker actually drops, over to the hook, and then you got the outside linebacker, taking the zone in the middle. I mean, it's unique, and I think that's what makes opposing quarterbacks so confused. And if we're running that, and if that's going to again increase the level of play and unlock some of the potential that we have in some of the players that we have on our defense, then I'm very excited about that. I think there's decent talent on this team. I thought they should have been somewhere near average, like league average this year. We were not. We were near the bottom of the league, like 30th, 31st, in some different categories, right? Uh, so that really held this team back. If Mike Macdonald can walk in here, we keep the offense, you know, as long as they just play at the level that they've been playing at. Hopefully, Mike Macdonald can get a coordinator and get them playing even better. But if they just play at the level they've been playing at, and then he gets this defense to improve back to the point where they're playing at league average, we're talking about the type of team that I thought the Seahawks could have been this year, right? Like I said, in my head, this team should have been a 10-win team. In my heart, rooting for them, I thought they had the potential to win 12 games. But just the talent alone that was there on offense, and if they could have just played league average defense, that should have been a 10-win team easily. But they were nowhere near league average on defense, and hopefully, with Mike Macdonald walking in here, they are hopefully going to improve very quickly. He's got a lot of young players to coach, and hopefully, unlock them to their full potential, right? And hopefully, he's going to get them to at least league average, but hopefully, he's going to take them above that as fast as possible. Can we really expect that it happens in year one? You can't expect it, but man, I'm hoping for it, right? So we'll see if that's actually able to happen. Now, I just mentioned it a second ago. Who's going to be the staff? So I got a list of questions now with Mike Macdonald. We've heard about his personality. We've seen all the videos that the Seahawks social media have been posting of him arriving in the building. And yeah, I mean, he doesn't seem like he's not as rah-rah as Pete. He's not as outgoing. He doesn't seem like he's the kind of guy that gets up and yells. I mean, go watch one of the promo videos that they have, and he's got like the whole Seahawks building. There's like players there. There's staff there, faculty. John Schneider's there, and he's like, "All right, so yeah, I'm the new coach, and I'm here. Let's get started. We're gonna win a lot of games." It wasn't very animated. We're used to the last 14 years we had Pete Carroll, who would be very animated. But again, that was him in the crowd people. As long as once you get him in the room with the team, if he can inspire them and do what he needs to do to get them to do what they need to do and to be inspired, then how he presents on camera doesn't really matter. So we're about to learn if he can lead and inspire young men. We're about to learn that. Another question is, will he be able to maintain the culture? I think that question is one that we're going to learn as well. But again, hearing about him from all his former players, whether that is the Ravens players, the 1 year that he spent at Michigan, and effect that he had on those players and the players that were there, talk about him then. We have one of those players on the Seahawks roster, Mike Morris, and he talked about how happy he is that Mike Macdonald is there. It sounds like, again, he gets it. He knows how to connect to his players and inspire them. So I'm liking the chance of that. So those first two questions are just kind of questions that we don't really know, but we feel like we have a good, um, we have a good feeling on. My next question, we really don't. I haven't heard anything at all, so I really don't know who will be his staff. Who's going to be the defensive coordinator? He's still going to need a defensive coordinator because he's the head coach now. He can't just spend all of his time in the defensive room. He's going to have to go hang out with the offensive team and with those coaches and make sure everybody knows what he's wanting out of them. And, also inspiring that side of the ball. He's going to have to go hang out with special teams and make sure everybody's doing, what they need to do to practice and be at the top of the line there. He's going to have to go spend time in the wide receiver room. He's going to have to go spend time in the tight end room. He's not just spending time in the defensive room anymore. So, who is going to be on his staff? Who is going to be the one when he's stepping out of the defensive room that he can trust that they are sending the right message to the team when he's away with one of the other position groups? Who's going to, big question now, be the offensive coordinator? We know what he can do with X's and O's on the defensive side of the ball. But who's going to be this offensive coordinator now? The one that's going to be spending the time implementing the scheme and, trying to get the best out of this very talented group of offensive players that we have. That I'm very interested to find out. I'm sure we'll be finding out soon. I think that's why they moved so fast. Once they knew Mike Macdonald was their guy for sure, that's why they hired him so fast, because they got to get out there and start hiring the rest of the staff now. So we'll probably start finding that out very soon. But I'm very curious to know. I don't really know who he knows. I hope he has connections. And we know John Schneider is, going to be the head of this. So does he already have people in mind that he wants to hire? And was that part of the interview process and Mike Macdonald okayed it? Or did Mike Macdonald come in and say, hey, I happen to know these guys, and I think these guys would be great offensive coordinators, and I know that they would come and be on my offensive staff if I get hired? And was John Schneider like, oh, hey, yeah, I happen to know about those guys and I like them, so we want to move on you fast? Because again, remember that I've heard it talked about a lot. That was like, Sean McVay. People are like, okay, yeah, you're this great offensive mind, but you're so young. Like, who do you know? Like, who's going to be your defensive coordinator? And then when he was like, oh, well, I know Wade Phillips. He's going to be my defensive coordinator. And when they called Wade Phillips up and he said, oh, yeah, if you hire him, I'm going to be the defensive coordinator, then it makes it that much easier. So is there somebody like that for Mike Macdonald? Is there somebody who's like a well-respected offensive coordinator that happens to respect Mike Macdonald so much that they say, hey, yeah, I respect this young guy so much that I would love to coach with him and coach the other side of the ball to help him out? That is something I'm curious about. Or, are we going to find out John Snyder already has some people in mind that he wanted, and Mike Macdonald just happened to be okay with it? We'll be finding that all out very soon. This is all very exciting. You should be very excited if you are a Seahawks fan. It's time. It's go time. We're here. We got our coach. There's going to start. You should be excited, but at the same time, a little bit nervous, right? Just as a fan, I'm nervous, even though I'm excited. I mean, because now we have a new head coach. Now the reality is gonna set in. There's gonna be a lot of moves made on this roster, and not just players that we, fans that I see online saying that they want gone. Okay, and there's players on here that I think, yeah, we need to move on from. But there's other players that we like who might be gone as well, just based on salary. So, again, very exciting time, but also very nerve-wracking time if you're a fan of certain players. Um, this is a very unsure time. Like how much change are we going to see now? Um, on both sides of the ball. Again, not just defense. Obviously, the defense was so bad you would think that there's going to be changes. There's a lot of young guys, so um, we'll see how much changes is made on the defense. Certain ones should be obvious with the salary, like a Jamal Adams, but on offense, I think there might be some changes that uh, are made to happen that aren't obvious because the production is still there, but will be obvious because the the contract, is not what they're wanting, and they need to free up cap space to get more players in here this season. They're sitting at, I don't even remember off the top of my head, but they're just sitting at like a few million dollars in cap space. So there's going to be a lot of restructuring that needs to happen, or cuts that need to happen to get salary space. So with a brand new head coach, there's going to be a lot of players that um, Mike Macdonald has no connection with, no rapport with, that it might just be easier for him to move on from those players than it would have been for Pete, or be easier for him than it would be for a lot of fans. So just get ready for that inevitable situation. Just brace yourself. I know we're all excited right now, but there's a lot to be nervous about. I mean, we should also be nervous that this might not work. I'm feeling confident that it's going to work just because the organization seems so confident that it makes me confident, right? When other people are confident in something, it makes you more confident. So I'm feeling confident in the moment, but I'm sure every organization feels like that when they hire a new head coach until they go those 2 seasons in a row where they only get 2 wins, right? But again, hopefully, that's not going to happen here. And hopefully, even if it did, if we get some underwhelming seasons, hopefully they're going to give Mike Macdonald, they'll actually give him that 6 years to work everything out. I mean, obviously, look how well it worked out for the Lions, right? They didn't start out well. Look how well it's working for the 49ers right now. Did it work out well when they first hired Shanahan? No, it wasn't great. It took them time to build. So we'll see how much of they decide to tear down and make a rebuild, or if they just retool. Just based on the roster, I think this team's already close. I think John Schneider thinks it's already close, and I'm sure he's hiring Mike Macdonald because he thinks he's the guy that is going to unlock the potential in the defense and not just make it so that they're close anymore, but get them over that hump and get them into the playoffs and making runs in the playoffs, not just getting there, but actually, winning games in the playoffs again. All right. There you go. There's our new head coach, Mike Macdonald. Congratulations. Let me know what you think of the hire. All right. Just type it in the chat. Or not in the chat, in the comments. If you're watching this on YouTube, put it in the comment. What's your letter grade? A, B, C, D, F. What do you give this hire? I know personally, I'm giving it an A, just based on everything I've been hearing about the guy now, about his interview process, about how dedicated he is to the game of football, the X's and the O's, how dedicated he is to giving the information and passing that information along to players and helping the players learn. That's all, great stuff. Again, they're saying he's the Sean McVay of defense. So, you really want somebody who really understands that to a point and to a level where, if anybody has a question about anything, he has the answer, and can make those players feel confident about what they're doing just by simply knowing exactly the exact answer to every question that could be possible. So yeah, there you go. That's the episode. Again, please like, subscribe, comment, just any other general comments about your excitement for Mike Macdonald being here. If you're listening on the podcast version, follow, subscribe, leave a written review, 5-star rating. That all helps the show grow. And that's going to be it for this one. So thanks for listening to the Seattle Sports Show, where we watch legends awaken. So take cover, because with a sea of sound, you will see us rise to reign supreme and win forever.